everyone. This is Yulia Yaani, and this is a fourth podcast in our new series of podcasts about commercial real estate finance, and innovations. And just to remind you, I'm Yulia Yaani. I'm CEO and co-founder of RealAtom. We are industry-leading platform that powers commercial real estate lenders like banks, credit unions, and non-banking organizations to make more commercial real estate loans. And through building our platform, we meet so many interesting people. And today, I'm so pleased to introduce to you Jack Cohen. He's the president and chief innovation officer of StrongHill Capital. He also has 40 years experience in our industry. He is member of many industry organizations like MBA, CRE, ULI, and other. He built, grew, and recapitalized many times Cohen Financial. And Jack is also very much into innovation. So I'm very excited to, Jack, have you today on our podcast. Welcome.
Julia, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. Really am.
Well, to begin with, can you tell us about yourself?
Oh my God.
And remember, our podcast is only 35 minutes.
I was just going to say, that's all I was thinking about. Let's see. I've been around a long time, and I joke with some truth that I believe that I have made every mistake an operator can make and still survive and prosper. I'm actually an engineer by education, and my first job out of college was as a consultant in the construction industry. I've made three great mistakes in my life. The first one was going to work for my father, and that was Cohen Financial. I was at Cohen Financial 35, 36 years. I see myself as a service provider and an operator, but I have also, as you know, created kind of an alter ego, no pun intended. I have a private equity business that I call DarkKnight Ventures, and I provide intellectual and economic capital to entrepreneurs. So I've learned the hard way how to be an investor in people and in businesses and in hard assets. And currently I'm a hired gun working for a $20 billion fixed income house in Denver called Aramark. They own a bunch of portfolio businesses, one of which is StrongHill Capital, which is a small balance lender. So that was a quick survey of 40 years.
It was quick. I'm surprised. Thank you for that. Tell us about the StrongHill Capital.
StrongHill Capital is actually, I've enjoyed this job in this business more than any of the businesses I've ever been in, including Cohen Financial. So StrongHill Capital was birthed by a company called Hunter Kelsey. Hunter Kelsey is in Texas, and they make loans to homeowners who need financing to pay their property taxes. There's so many fascinating businesses out in the world. Who knew that existed in anywhere, let alone the state of Texas? And a number of years ago, they started that business and got it the idea that small balance lending was an opportunity. And they started StrongHill Capital, started investing back in 2007. In the summer of 2019, I was asked by the Aramark people to come in and do a strategy assignment in the guise of DarkKnight Ventures. So I spent the fourth quarter down in Austin, Texas, which is where the business is, and kind of did a deep dive. And in December, thinking I was finishing up a strategy assignment, I went to Denver and I submitted my plan and my ideas, and I'm thinking, that's it. My current boss says to me, this is very interesting. We don't have anyone to run the business. Would you be interested? So I said, well, I'm not moving to Austin. They said, that's okay. I said, well, if you read my report, I don't like anything that you're doing. I would break all the processes and rebuild it. Oh, that's okay. Well, that's going to take some money. You need some capital. No, that's okay. Well, I need some capital to invest. Oh, that's okay. So let me think about it. So sure enough, last January, I took over. I learned something. It didn't take me until probably March or April into COVID before I realized I thought StrongHill Capital made small loans. They say in the tagline that they're a small balance commercial lender, right? I thought that meant little loans. What I came to find out is there's actually this weird esoteric part of the capital markets that I had no idea existed. And this small balance area is the competition are leveraged lenders. They don't hold their loans, they securitize, they sell them, they focus on residential. My judgment is it's full of hobbyists, not professional owners of income producing real estate. And it annoyed the living crap out of me because I was used to more certainty of execution. So what I said is, here's what we're going to do at StrongHill. We're going to build a predictable process that leads to certain results that folks can rely on. We're going to support entrepreneurial users of capital. We want professional owners of real estate, income producing real estate, and we're going to make little loans for folks who otherwise work on large loans. So I guess my customer is the brokerage community. I'd like the better brokers who are working on larger loans, who have good clients that they control, and that those clients then have small loans that, they don't want to waste time on. And so they need something that they can do better, faster, and cheaper, right? The brokerage community doesn't want to work on $1 million loan. They can't charge that much. And if we can build a system, if we can automate the system, if we can make this an end-to-end system, which we're not there yet, can we in fact be an ally to these brokers? So I say that we are trying to be a small balance lender who does little loans for people who otherwise work on large loans, and our ownership of Aramark. So I actually have moved the minimum to $1 million. We're doing $1 to $10 million loans. Aramark does $10 to $100 million loans. In order to build a business that scales, we did last year 149 closed transactions. It was only $158 million, so a little more than $1 million a loan. Our plan this year is to do 200, 250 loans at an average of about 2 million, just under 2 million. So doubling in size. And we need systems, processes, procedures, and policies that can scale. So we only do fixed rate. We only do 5, 7, 10, 12-year loans. We only do it on stable cash flow, whereas all the fancy stuff is done by Aramark.
So you said that you are making process predictable and you want to scale. What do you do to achieve those two? I mean, our podcast is obviously about lending and innovations and technology. Do you involve technology into that process?
We do. At some level it's trial and error. You and I have had this conversation. My observation is if you created the best app and gave it to the top quartile of real estate companies, all you would do is accelerate the crash. That the problem we're having is the technologists themselves are actually better business people than the real estate people. That's the good news. The bad news is the real estate people don't really understand the technology, and the technologists don't always understand the pain points or the processes or connections. And so we've done a little bit of trial and error, and I think we're making progress. But as we said before we get started, innovation is not a bottomless pit, but it's endless. So I started with what was easy. When I came in, because I was running the business remote, I hired somebody to help me put Salesforce in place. And all I wanted out of Salesforce was really two things. I needed it to hold my database of contacts so that I could do Jack chats and emails and reach out to people. I wanted to do e-marketing out of it and use their CRM, but I had experience at 3650 building what RealAtom would consider a sophomoric pipeline management program. Not really huge technology, but it gave me an idea of where my flow of business was from fresh inquiry all the way to closing. And it allowed me the opportunity to focus on where bottlenecks were. And you know this from building processes, you need to optimize at the point of the bottleneck, because any optimization before or after is a waste of resources. So we then ended up licensing a document management program called OneSource. So my originators will start in Salesforce. They create an originator's recommendation on a transaction, and then it goes to the operations team to build the file. They'll underwrite, they'll process, they'll close the loan, and the document management is in OneSource. And then it stopped there. I have outsourced servicing to a third-party servicer, a company called Essex Financial Services in Denver. Knew the people, liked their business, liked their people, and I didn't want to put capital into servicing. So I'm using their technology, and again, to repeat an act at 3650, we went to Real Insight, which is owned by Fortress and CW Capital, for a surveillance and asset management program to oversee the servicing. So if I start in Salesforce, I go to OneSource, Essex comes in with whatever they use, I think Real Synergy, if that makes sense, and then Real Insight. A little clunky, but it was like I was changing the tires on a moving car. So what we need to do now is sit with you and Masha and say, can we consolidate this? Can we make life simpler? Is there a way to clean up the mistakes that I made? Now, it served the purpose that I did, because 2019 pre-me, they did $75 million. In 2020, we did $158 million. The plan this year is to do $400 million and $650 the year after. I can't do it without technology, and it's not replacing anyone. Well, am I replacing data clerks and data entry and maybe analysts to run reports? Yeah, sure, because I should be able to push a button and get the report that I want. So it's a lot. I don't know if that was responsive.
You just said something remarkable. So you basically came to Greenfield, you implemented the technology stack, and your origination volume just grew year over year. And it seems like you are attributing it to building that repeatable process. How long, so there are a lot of people in our industry that just plain scared of technology. But if you can share, how long did it take you, and how did you people feel about it initially and as it was progressing? Was it that scary?
Well, my wife says I'm an acquired taste. So, maybe when I showed up, all that intensity freaked everyone out. But it was really interesting. I inherited a team, the 3 people, origination, operations, and balance sheet. I literally, in the first week of the job, bought 2 large easels and I made the three of them write on sheets of paper in a conference room the process. And then I started asking questions. I don't understand what this is, and I don't understand why we do that. And then I said, what if we take this sheet of paper and move it over here? And I annoyed the shit out of those people. But they started to get the idea that I was looking for the best idea and the best idea to win. So winning over them was a little easier than their folks. And the mistake, in my judgment, that prior regime made at StrongHill is, and this happens in small balance, I'll hire originators that are new business development people who don't know anything about real estate, and then they assume the the operations people will, clean up the mess. You can't scale that. Let me get this straight. The idea is to go find as much inventory as you can, sift good financing from bad financing, process the good stuff, and create a hit ratio. Most of the industry closes less than 3% of what they look at. I'm trying to get us over 10%, and you don't want to know how low StrongHill's hit ratio was before I got there. So again, back to manual, right? I couldn't just automate it. I realized that the originators had to do more thoughtful origination. They had to know what the difference is between a financeable deal and non-financeable. And so I had to do some loan balancing. Well, that made friends for me in operations and enemies for me in originations. So yes, this has been a love-hate by them relationship. Imagine when I say, okay, here's Salesforce, we're going to train you more than once. And then every time you look at a deal, I want it entered in to the fresh inquiry bucket, and I want to be able to see these loans move forward. When I got here, there were 12 originators. We went down to 4 because the 8 couldn't adapt to the change. Now we've just added 4 more. We have 2 more starting February 1st, and I hope to add 2 more by the end of April. And all of this is with an expectation that best idea wins, that every day we have to be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. Our context is better, faster, and more effective. And best idea wins, but we're going to keep changing the way we do things.
So you just named all those benefits that you are getting from establishing the process within the company. But do you see the benefits of that for your customers, for the brokers that are sending you loan requests, for the borrowers that you're working with?
Yes and no. So in the world, according to Jack, I kind of went through the mortgage banking, mortgage brokerage community, and I created 10 tiers of broker. This was just pure opinion by me, right? Often wrong, but never in doubt. Of course, I roll this out to everyone, and they're confused as shit. So I converted it to 3 personas. So the world RealAtom is working in, the world I came from, I call Persona 1. The StrongHill customer, the broker, is Persona 3, and I kind of put that Persona 2 out there to see if we can find what that looks like in 2021. My experience with Persona 3, StrongHill customer, was mostly residential brokers who stumble over a commercial deal. That's not to say they're not competent, but they're not as competent as the Persona 1 brokers. The Persona 1 brokers are doing a better job of using technology. Now, again, you and I have talked about this. Their idea of using technology is an Excel spreadsheet that holds their package. But when I first got in the business, packages were like letters, and everyone wrote their package differently, right? The fact that they finally have a format and the tabs never change, to them is technological advancement. Now, when I say to them, hey, is there an API where I can take that Excel and drop it into my data? They look at me like I got 9 heads. So I'm not ready to say.
How dare you are.
I know. And so to suggest that my channels for origination are tech savvy, not yet. I think the best ideas belong to somebody else, so steal freely. So if you think about RealAtom as a channel, can I be a receptacle for that channel? Can I find 5 different channels? And maybe it's a technology company like RealAtom, or it's Dearborn Capital in Chicago who is willing to work on small balance if it's automated and if their system talks to mine, because he doesn't want to do the work. He wants to know that he can underwrite a deal and it'll process through. So I think what will start to happen is, instead of me having 14 originators out originating, can I have 5 channels that are originating? Can I delegate underwriting so that they will originate and we'll map data and standards? That'll be the way I'll get my costs of operations down. That's the way I'll get revenue per FTE up, and I will have a scalable position. So maybe we're just at the front end of the line ahead of the brokerage channel, but the brokers are trying to do more with less, and maybe we'll get around to something beyond packages.
Got it. Let me ask you, going back to business, do you guys do any kind of business with life insurance companies?
Yeah, so our business model, interesting you asked this question, our business model, when you consider Aeromark, is to act as an outsourced investment manager for life companies. So life companies, not all of them have an origination staff. Not all of them can find deals or excess yield. And so the combination of what we are doing in small balance and Rob Brown is doing at Aeromark in large balance is acting on behalf of a balance sheet lender, a life company. And we actually, don't tell anyone, invest in the receivable. We credit enhance by investing in the receivable. So Friday, I am delivering to a life company $52 million pool of mortgages. I think it's 46 loans, maybe 47, right? So a little more than $1 million. And on Friday, all those loans will show up. That life company had no cost of origination. All they did is we originated to their specification. We built a mosaic and a portfolio, and we delivered that pool to them. So they are getting excess yield and diversification of loans with 0 origination costs.
Of course, I will not tell anyone. You realize we have a database of 90,000 industry people that we're sending our podcast and newsletters to.
They're all sworn in the cone of silence. They're all sworn to secrecy. No pillow talk.
Absolutely. I will have all of them to sign the NDAs.
No, that's all right. Their word is fine with me.
And just to transition from your current job to innovations, before we do that, do you want to talk about any interesting deals that you guys worked on lately?
In the small balance space, it's actually serving the need. Like, brokerage community has this little loan, they can't get any attention to it. And so I don't know that any of them stand out. The dentist who buys his office building, or the self-storage transaction that wasn't ready for a life company because it hadn't leased up. We created a master lease and a reserve. We did one in Battle Creek, Michigan, which of course I knew where that was. And then we did one in LaGrange, Georgia, which I couldn't find. I needed help finding on Google Maps. So, I think it's just trying to build a business that supports the outcome of your customer. And right now, the customer we're focused on is the brokerage shops. And we're trying to help the youngins who are getting into business, learn how to do the business, because they all learn on small loans. And the big shots who have customers they've been financing for 20 years, their customer's not going to let them, do the $1 million loan with somebody else in the office. They got to do it. So Joe Monteleone needs some human leverage. And so his team will work on small loans, and hopefully we can make it easier for Joe.
You started those deals are not that interesting. As a matter of fact, I love to hearing about those smaller deals, financing the dentist office here or, a laundromat there, because you basically support small businesses.
Right. Exactly. And what's been fascinating, I'm sure it's luck. I don't think it's skill, but I can tell you, we do not have one loan through COVID, not one loan that's delinquent 30 days, no loans in forbearance. And I think it's because of the strength of these small entrepreneurs who make these, they buy this real estate as part of their lifestyle, right? And when we underwrite, we underwrite global cash flow. We want to know where all their money's coming from so that we can understand. And in most cases, these loans they need the cash flow to augment their life. So they work hard to maintain these properties, and they're small. They don't all hire managers. So, do we have opinions about, who's better than others? Do we have opinions about what cities we should be in? Yeah, that's all evolution and trial and error.
Well, great for you. Well, let's talk a little bit about trends that you see in commercial real estate finance. I know you a lot as a visionary, and you always think, hundreds of steps ahead. But let's get, closer to the ground. What do you see right now, and how do you think it's changing the industry? Now, in 3 years, in 5.
Well, so at the risk of somebody thinking that I'm, selling my book, which is not the case, I think there's a couple of things that are clear. One, I think the next generation of real estate operator, financier, capital provider wins based on data analytics. I don't think that's this year. I don't think maybe that's 3 years, but you start to see how the business evolves. And I actually think predictive analytics and the ability to not just use machine language, but machine learning, but AI to start to actually manage big sets of data, I think is the future of our industry and our business, which means my generation just has to die for that to open up. I think in the interim, interest rates are really, really low. The reason why somebody should want to own a small balance loan is you should be able to get a premium yield for small balance. It's not the case. And if you think about this race to the bottom in terms of interest rates, it's calling into questions reductions of cost, needs for efficiencies, other ways of doing something, right? If you've noticed in the last couple of years, life insurance companies get sold, or life insurance companies sell their mortgage book. Why is that? They can't afford it. So while the borrowing community and all the excess capital is showing up at the table, excess supply of capital, we're having, my judgment, a worse ball player who thinks their only job is to manage an auction, and they're driving the cost down, which is making it harder for an investor to hold the investment. So I think there is really, we're at the precipice of change because necessity is the mother of invention. As we hit these friction points, people are trying to figure out how they can do this. Well, can they outsource investment management to somebody else? Do they have to scale, right? The life companies have to be bigger and bigger and bigger. I think that clearly the outgrowth of the virus is going to call into question transit-oriented development, right? San Francisco, Chicago, even New York, no one wants to get on the train. Everyone's working from home. So, oh my God, suburban office and suburban retail are starting to see an uptick. But all these buildings are going to have lower rental, higher vacancy, higher cleaning costs, higher security costs, higher insurance costs, lowering their NOI, which is going to lower value, which is going to erode equity. So can capital come in? A bunch of people have raised a bunch of money for rescue capital. Do they think they're really going to find a deal? Maybe. I don't know that there'll be the same distress, but we're going to see values reset and an opportunity for the next generation to make a bunch of money. So great business, dynamic business, great industry, dynamic industry. But I think change is afoot. Last comment I'd make is how the CMBS world, in terms of servicing, can service the borrowing community that are experiencing COVID pain, is likely to destroy the CMBS business as an industry. My view has always been securitization is a great tool to shape your portfolio, but this idea that pass-through lenders who aren't there for a service proposition for a borrower, another friction point that's creating pressure for change. So I think the next 3 years are going to be really dynamic in our industry. And I think the key to it is technology.
Well, thank you for sharing. One thing that you just mentioned, so basically you believe that, analytics is coming, predictability, we need it all. But very often you hear from the industry people that even though we are such a huge industry by volume, it is a very small industry by numbers, by number of transactions, but number of players. And what I hear quite often, oh, well, we do only, 150 loans. We are okay with emails. We don't need any efficiency. From what you just said, from the beginning of our conversation, and it's really striking. You did 70 loans. You saw the need for better organization, better efficiency. You implemented that process or started that process. You increase your volume, and now you're planning to grow even more. So how would you, respond to those people? They say, well, we don't do enough transactions to think about efficiency. We're okay with, everything we have right now. Finish my question, because to me, analytics is one of the things that industry is just lacking. It's extremely opaque. We know that. And those small volumes, small numbers of transactions, they, if they're in the same pool, if someone can analyze it, it will benefit everyone. But I don't see that people want that.
Yeah. So this kind of hits on one of my pet peeves, and it's more than Forrest Gump. Stupid is what stupid does. The biggest problem with the real estate business is it's really made up of transactional people. Transactional people are reactive, they're tactical, and they run lifestyle businesses, right? A lifestyle business is a guy who's just trying to make X amount of revenue, and he's trying to do it with the least amount of strum and drain, right? But the reality is, Sam Zell came in, led the REIT push a number of decades ago because he was trying to be strategic. He was being proactive. He was being more than transactional and more than tactical. And the end result was that he brought in really competent human beings to the real estate business. So I have to laugh. What's happened to the industry that you've described is kind of a barbell. Right? You look at fundraising, Blackstone raises $5 billion in like 10 seconds, right? You know, Starwood, $5 billion, 12 seconds, right? Apollo, $5 billion, 15 seconds, right? But that person who's trying to do their first $200 million raise is taking 3 years and not getting it.
Yep.
Why? They got a tactical, transactional lifestyle business. Why would you I don't want to put money into my lifestyle business. My lifestyle, why would I invest in somebody else's lifestyle, right? So I think part of this is the unintended consequence of how much damn money we made in this industry a la carte. But this is similar to the 60s and 70s and stock and bond traders. You compare Wall Street in the 60s, you know, the old lines, you know, places, and look at the world today, e-trading, you know, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your, you know, you don't need the broker. That's where the real estate business is going. I don't want to go big. Like, I would not last in an institution. Like, I'm too opinionated. I don't know how to do politics. I like entrepreneurs. But there are entrepreneurs out there that want to build businesses that outlive them. And the lifestyle guys will stop. They'll just, you know, they'll always be able to make a little bit of money in whatever town they're at. But the real change that's coming will defeat their business because it will drive the cost of doing business down. If I look at the brokerage business in the 40 years that I've been in the business, there's been erosion of the value proposition. There's some very smart mortgage bankers today, but if you look at the generation ahead of me, those guys were legends in terms of representing life companies and making these loans. And today, it's just a more diluted process. They think they're supposed to get 50 bids. They're trying to run an auction. Do they really understand the business? What they're trying to keep up with. When I first got into the business, Hancock wouldn't do a loan more than $10 million, and we used to get paid 2 points, right? Today, you know, Hancock doesn't say a low for a loan below $10 million, and if a broker can get a half a point, what does that tell you? You have to do more volume with less effort. The way they did it was bigger deals. The next way to do it is going to be by running a better business. And if we can if the ecosystem can run a better business, can interact with one another with less friction, then the entire ecosystem does better by this. No one's going to replace Blackstone or Starwood or the mom and pop local developer who owns strip centers. It's the middle class that's going to get eroded and replaced by better run businesses.
So if you could say one thing to all those people in the industry that will help them to advance, you know, in whatever they're doing, what would it be?
Best idea wins. That, you know, I try to buy in the 90s, I was trying to buy my first business, and I screwed up the acquisition. And the guy says to me in a meeting, he says, Jack, do you want what you want, or do you want to be right? It took me 15 years to figure out what he was telling me. I wanted him to say, yeah, Jack, your business plan at Cohen Financial is better than mine. You win, right? What a moron. What I really wanted was to buy his business. This industry, if you could let go of being right and instead acknowledge that the best idea wins, and now apply that to constantly approach your daily business better, faster, cheaper, we all win. We all win. So want what you want as opposed to being right.
You realize I can now publish a book with your quotes.
I love soundbites.
And by the way, you mentioned your book. You have a book coming out, or?
No. I write a periodic blog called Jack Chat, and it's on my website at DarkKnightVentures.net, and you can see the various ones that I have written, and periodically I get moved. I'm overdue for writing one. The last one I wrote was in the fall. I don't have the patience to sit down and write a book, although it is on my bucket list to do. Just kind of a collection of sound bites. But chapter 13, my biggest mistake in life was teaching my daughter Lindsay to drive. That was a failure. So that'll be chapter 13.
I hope she's okay.
She's okay. Her mother's okay. I don't know that I survived that process.
So tell me what kind of tech fascinates you personally? Forget about real estate.
What kind of tech?
Yeah.
I confess, all tech fascinates me. Let me answer it in reverse. What pisses me off more than anything is the 20-something who wants to respond to a communication from me, an old guy, with some new system, right? Slack and Instagram, and I never did Facebook or any of that kind of stuff. So I confess some of this is shiny new toy, which annoys the hell out of me. But when somebody shows up in my office with an idea, a better way to do something, whatever the tech is, I'm all ears. And, I've made some investments in fintech and prop tech businesses, and some have done better than others. The fascinating thing to me is just because you have an idea for tech doesn't really mean that you're a competent business manager. Are you a coachable athlete? Can you focus on getting your product developed? Can you do market research so that if you have friction in the marketplace, you can zig instead of zag? And if you can do all that, can you teach your company, can you teach your people to adapt with it? Not all are so good. Not all are that. A couple of years ago, it seemed like everyone wanted to create a unicorn. Shit, if you could create a $10 million revenue business, that's a start. It's easier to go from 10 to 100 million or 100 million to $1 billion than it is to go from 0 to 10. And so there's been some very cool technology that people are trying to bring to the table. I mean, I think things like insurance, purchasing insurance should be done better by technology. There's no question that a mortgage banker can manage their team and internal communication better just by sharing quotes. That's not highfalutin, complicated stuff. It's just, how can you look at a business process and think about it better? the thing that I'm most attracted to is who has the way to aggregate data, manipulate it, analyze it. You know, there was a guy, this goes back a long time ago, there was a guy named Stan Davis who wrote a book called 2020, right? His vision was this far out time in the future, the year 2020, where you could, 2020 vision. His view was industries and businesses go from no data, to information, to knowledge, to products and service. Too much of our industry is applying technology to data, and not enough are moving it to information, knowledge, and products and services. Any tech that is doing that I'm interested in. And I'm interested in the why that they're going after. I want to know what it's going to be, and I want to know how they're going to do it. And, you know, as a kid, you know, the kid's book, Curious George, that was my favorite character. You know, I've always been curious. I have a deep-rooted fear of becoming functionally obsolete. So I'm keen to learn and always learn. And the best ideas belong to somebody else, so steal freely, right? And so who's got a cool idea of technology, and what is it? How's it applied? Why is it applied? So I didn't answer your question, but that was authentic.
You did, and you also transitioned into my last two questions. And, you know, I can talk to you for hours because it's just so interesting to listen to you. But the last two questions, you know, researching your profile, I noticed that you're a pilot, you have a pilot license, you also have a black belt in Aikido, you know, so comment, and you do, I mean, you work full time, you have a family, you are constantly doing all those other things. How do you manage all of that? I mean, share with us the wisdom, like how?
So thank you for asking. So part of this is, I tell people of all ages, there's only three things you have to do to be successful in your life, but you have to do it every single day. You have to acquire skills, you have to accumulate experiences, you have to develop relationships. Well, if you take that drive and a level of curiosity, Sherlock Holmes said the best rest is a change of problem. So for me, I don't think I or people are overstressed, we're under-recovered. And so for me, whether it was rock climbing or motorcycles or airplanes or the martial arts or scuba diving, each was a project to acquire new skills, to accumulate experiences, to develop broader relationships, and to have recovery in the context of a change of problem. So, you know, I'm up early. I do go to bed early. You know, I overschedule everything. I'm very good at managing time, but managing time is like packing a suitcase, right? You know, you put certain things in certain pockets and you layer things in, and, you know, I don't sit still well. So I read trash novels to clear my brain. I like the superhero, you know, spy, counter-espionage stuff. Obviously, I'm trying to read business books to get better at what's going on. But by and large, I'm blessed with a lot of energy. I don't sit still well. So I try and apply it to broaden my experiences.
Jack, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us your experiences, your wisdom, your visions, and Thank you for coming to my podcast again. I'm Yulia Yaani.
My pleasure.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
So I'm Yulia Yaani, CEO and co-founder of RealAtom. We are running podcast about commercial real estate lending and innovations. And today our guest was Jack Cohen. He's a president and chief innovation officer of StrongHill Capital, commercial real estate lender. Jack, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the underwriting staff will use that, right? Hopefully the origination staff will use that. So if you can envision, I have all my loans, I have all my comps, I have all of that, and I can geotag it, then in theory, I should be able to accelerate the education and training of originators and underwriters because they can have better access to data. Now, I'm growing at 200 loans a year, right? That's not enough, right? We've talked about this before, this idea of how you can get more data. Are there other companies like me that if you anonymized my data and we had 5 other companies of the same size to anonymize it and we threw it all into a data warehouse that everyone could extract from, then my 200 loans a year become 1,000 loans a year, and now real time my database is growing. So I'm happy to fantasize with you, and you can see what we're trying to. You and Marcia can see what I'm trying to do and the path we're trying to go. My biggest problem is I tend to be out too far in front. And I need to slow down a little bit so that my team can keep up. And I've made a lot of mistakes being to the party industry-wide early. And obviously I'd rather be early than late, but maybe I don't have to be as early. So I'm trying to I have a vision, I have an idea, but I don't necessarily need to be first to be there.
Okay, got it. And during this call, do you think you can also show us the CRE simple, whatever you liked about them, So
Yeah.
So then should I coordinate with Diane to find time in your schedule?
Yeah.
Okay, and the last question I wanted to ask, so we do have 4.5 million committed right now from our existing investors. But before I sign the final papers, I really want to go and see if I can maybe, get an alternative capital. Because with the existing investors, there are things that I don't like about that agreement, but the money is there. It's good when people go in. So I'm talking to different people right now. Maybe I already have like a lead for that. But you introduced me last year to some of your contacts, and I talked to the guy somewhere in Midwest. I will dig out his name, but he said that he invested in CRE Simple, and then there is a pool of people that invested in CRE Simple. Do you think they are lost cost for us? I mean, or do you think, if they lost money on that investment, they would want to maybe try something different?
Honest answer is I don't know. And I think it was Tim Street at Grand Ventures. He's definitely, the fund has done well away from real estate. So, it's certainly worth a reconnect if you want. I think his argument will
Jack,
be,
I'm sorry, just 1 second. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Not a problem at all.
We have a home.
The joy. Yeah, joy of working at home.
Yes.
Do I think it's a low probability? Yeah. Is it a 0 probability? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
All right?
Got it. I mean, worse, an email. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Let me know when the thing's posted, and I hope it accomplishes for you what you wanted to accomplish.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.